Margaret, 78, followed every doctor's order. Calcium, vitamin D, walking every day. But one morning, one slip and one fractured hip changed her life in an instant. Turns out, there was one vitamin she'd never even heard of, and research shows it might have made all the difference. Today, we're shining a light on the nutrient quietly rewriting everything we thought we knew about aging bones. Every year in the U.S., over 300,000 seniors are hospitalized due to hip fractures. That's not just a statistic. For many, it's the beginning of a downward spiral. Recovery is long, independence fades, and for some, life is never quite the same. Doctors usually point to the same two culprits: calcium deficiency and low vitamin D. So naturally, millions of seniors take their supplements, drink their milk, get a bit of sun, and hope for the best. But here's the truth. Many of them still fall, many still fracture, and many still suffer. Why? Because there's a third piece of the puzzle that often goes missing. Not because it's rare, but because it's ignored. Vitamin K2, not K1, which helps with blood clotting, not D3, which helps absorb calcium, but K2, the vitamin that directs calcium where it belongs. And if that sounds too simple to matter, consider this. In a 2013 Rotterdam study tracking over 4,800 seniors, those with the highest intake of vitamin K2 had up to 50% lower risk of hip fractures, even when calcium and D levels were identical. That's not a small margin. That's not a rounding error. That's a life-changing difference. Think of it this way. Calcium is the building material. Vitamin D is the delivery truck. But without K2, that delivery truck drops the bricks in all the wrong places, like arteries and joints, instead of locking them into the bones. And yet, if you ask the average senior, they've never heard of it. Most multivitamins don't include it. Many doctors still don't mention it. And ironically, some of the highest K2 foods have been phased out of the modern Western diet. So we end up with a perfect storm, people doing the right thing, and still ending up fragile. But that doesn't have to be your story, because in just a moment, we'll explore the top natural sources of K2, how to absorb it properly, and a few unexpected cultural habits that have kept older generations fracture-free for centuries. So, what exactly is vitamin K2 doing inside the body that makes it so powerful, yet so ignored? Let's break it down simply. Vitamin K2 activates two critical proteins in your body. One is called osteocalcin. This little worker bee's job? To take calcium floating around in your bloodstream and pull it into your bones and teeth. The second protein is called matrix GLA protein, MGP. Its job is just as important, keeping calcium out of soft tissues like arteries and kidneys. Without enough K2, both of these proteins stay inactive. That means calcium starts behaving badly, building up in places it shouldn't, and skipping the very bones it was supposed to protect. So even if you're taking a calcium or vitamin D supplement, you could be flooding your body with raw material that has no direction, no guidance. That's like hiring builders with no blueprint. The result: weak foundations and major structural problems later on. And here's where things get tricky. Vitamin K2 isn't commonly found in the average Western diet. It's present in traditional fermented foods, organ meats, grass-fed animal products, which are all foods many seniors either avoid, don't enjoy, or haven't eaten in decades. What's more, most doctors lump K2 into the same category as K1, assuming if you eat leafy greens you're covered. But K1 and K2 are not interchangeable. They work in completely different systems of the body. One clots blood, the other protects bones and soft tissues. And here's the kicker. Your body doesn't store K2 for long, so unless you're replenishing it regularly, you could be running on empty without realizing it. Now, you might be wondering, are there any signs of K2 deficiency? The truth is, most symptoms are silent until damage is already underway. That's why it's so dangerous. But there are some clues. Are your teeth more sensitive than they used to be? Do your joints feel stiffer despite staying active? Have you noticed easy bruising or slow wound healing? Or has your dentist mentioned signs of jawbone weakening? These can all be subtle indicators that calcium is moving around your body, but not locking into place. And while the risks are real, the solution is simple. Just like in Japan and parts of Scandinavia, where hip fracture rates are among the lowest in the world, reintroducing natural sources of K2 into your daily routine may offer one of the biggest returns for your long-term strength and stability. In fact, some cultures have been eating K2-rich foods for generations without even realizing how powerfully they were protecting themselves. So now that you know why K2 is essential, here's the big question. Where do you actually find it? Not in most multivitamins, not in leafy greens, and definitely not in processed foods. But nature still has your back, if you know where to look. Let's start with the highest source of K2 on the planet, a humble, sticky, often overlooked food called natto. This traditional Japanese breakfast item is made from fermented soybeans, and while the texture might not be for everyone, the nutrient profile is unmatched. Just one small serving delivers more K2 than almost any other food in the MK7 form, which stays active in your body longer. Now, if natto's strong flavor isn't your thing, don't worry. There are plenty of other options. Hard cheeses, especially aged European varieties like Gouda and Edam, are surprisingly rich in K2. That's thanks to the bacteria involved in the fermentation process, which produce K2 naturally. Then there are organ meats, particularly goose liver and chicken liver, both excellent sources of the MK4 form of K2. And let's not forget pasture-raised egg yolks, butter from grass-fed cows, and even certain fermented dairy like kefir. But here's the important part. Not all K2 is the same. There are two main forms found in food. MK4, found in animal products like eggs, liver, and butter. It's fast-acting but cleared from the body quickly. MK7, found in fermented plant foods like natto and cheese. It stays in your bloodstream for longer, offering more consistent protection. If you're looking for maximum bone and cardiovascular benefits, research suggests MK7 may be the more effective long-term ally. A 2021 double-blind trial in postmenopausal women showed that MK7 supplementation significantly improved bone mineral density over 12 months, while MK4 showed only modest changes. So, what does that mean for your plate? It means variety matters. Try combining both sources. A boiled egg at breakfast, some Gouda with lunch, a small piece of liver or a fermented side dish once or twice a week. But what if you're lactose intolerant, or vegetarian, or simply not into liver? No problem. There are high-quality plant-based MK7 supplements now available that use natto extract and contain zero soy flavor. Just remember, absorption is key. K2 is fat-soluble, which means it needs to be paired with a healthy fat to be absorbed effectively. So don't just pop it on an empty stomach. Take it with avocado, olive oil, nuts, or your main meal. That's how you turn a capsule into actual protection. And here's something else. Vitamin D and K2 work best together. D helps absorb calcium. K2 directs it to the right place. Think of them as co-pilots. If you're already taking D3, and many seniors are, adding K2 may be the missing step that brings the whole strategy to life. Coming up next, we'll look at some dangerous myths about calcium supplementation, why too much of it without K2 could backfire, and how a few countries are rewriting their public health guidelines because of what they've learned. For decades, calcium has been the poster child of bone health. Every TV ad, every doctor's visit, every supplement label, it all points to one idea. Strong bones need more calcium. But here's the reality most seniors don't hear, and most doctors don't explain. Calcium without direction is not protection. In fact, High calcium intake without adequate vitamin K2 has been linked to a silent, slow-moving danger: arterial calcification. That means the very mineral you're taking to protect your bones could be hardening your blood vessels instead, if it's not properly managed. A study published in Atherosclerosis Journal tracked over 4,800 older adults and found that those with high calcium intake and low vitamin K2 intake had significantly more plaque buildup in their arteries, a known risk factor for heart attacks and strokes. Another review in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine warned that without K2, calcium may deposit in the wrong places, leading to stiff arteries, high blood pressure, and increased cardiovascular mortality. Think about that for a second. You could be faithfully taking your calcium every morning and quietly increasing your risk of heart disease. That's not just frustrating, it's preventable. Because when K2 is present, it activates those key proteins we talked about earlier, especially matrix Gla protein, MGP, which acts like a bouncer at the door of your arteries. MGP tells calcium, bones only, not here. Without that signal, calcium roams free, doing damage instead of good. This is why some researchers now refer to K2 as the traffic cop of minerals, making sure nutrients end up in the right place at the right time. And it's not just bones and arteries at stake. Too much free-floating calcium can also interfere with kidney function, weaken joint flexibility, cause calcium deposits in soft tissue. The irony is that many seniors who complain of joint stiffness, slower recovery, or even forgetfulness are unknowingly overloading their bodies with poorly absorbed calcium, while missing the one nutrient that would bring balance. That's why some public health experts in Japan and parts of Europe are now revising guidelines for older adults, not to increase calcium intake, but to ensure sufficient K2 is always included in the equation. And the results? Fewer fractures, stronger bones, cleaner arteries. So, the next time you see a bottle that promises bone health, flip it over. If K2 isn't listed, the formula is incomplete. In the next section, we'll explore how to build a daily routine that includes K2 effortlessly, and how to track the signs that your body is actually absorbing and using it. At this point, you're probably wondering, okay, I get it. K2 matters, but what exactly should I do each day? Good news. This isn't about overhauling your life. It's about a few small shifts that support your bones, protect your arteries, and strengthen your overall vitality. Let's walk through what a K2-powered day could actually look like. Morning. Start your day with a whole egg, preferably pasture-raised. Add a slice of cheese like Gouda or Jarlsberg to your breakfast. These aren't just delicious. They're two of the richest natural sources of K2 in Western diets. Already taking vitamin D3? Consider switching to a supplement that combines D3 plus K2 in one capsule. Many are available with MK7 form for extended benefits. Just remember, K2 is fat-soluble, so take it with food that contains fat. That means eggs, nuts, olive oil, or a spoonful of nut butter can boost your absorption dramatically. Midday. If you enjoy a light lunch, sprinkle in a piece of fermented food. This could be sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, or if you're adventurous, and even a small portion of natto. No need to go overboard. Just a few forkfuls can help keep your gut bacteria happy and your K2 levels replenished. Evening. This is a great time to wind down with a warm meal that includes healthy fats, like grilled salmon, avocado, or sautéed greens in olive oil. If you're taking a second dose of D3 or K2, this is the best window to do it. And here's something most people miss. Your bones repair themselves most actively at night. That's when melatonin rises, inflammation lowers, and calcium metabolism peaks. So giving your body the right nutrients before bed, especially K2, helps it rebuild while you sleep. Over time, this routine doesn't just protect your hips and joints. It can lead to smoother movement, deeper sleep, improved dental health, and even clearer cognitive function. Because remember, when calcium stays where it belongs, in the bones and teeth, the rest of the body functions better too. And you don't need to wait months to notice changes. Many seniors report reduced joint stiffness, better circulation, and more energy within weeks of adding K2 to their routine. So start small, stick with it, and let your body relearn what balance feels like. Because strong bones aren't just about avoiding fractures, they're about living with confidence, freedom, and resilience. In the next section, we'll uncover one final insight: the overlooked connection between K2 and dental strength, and why your teeth might be quietly warning you about your bone health before a fracture ever happens. Here's a question most people over 60 have never been asked. When was the last time your dentist talked to you about your bones? Strange connection, right? But here's the truth. Your teeth are part of your skeleton, and they're often the first place bone loss begins to show. Behind every tooth sits the alveolar bone, a specialized structure that anchors teeth into the jaw. As we age, this bone becomes more vulnerable to subtle breakdown, and when it starts to weaken, gums recede, teeth loosen, implants fail, and jaw strength declines, often without pain. This is where vitamin K2 quietly becomes a dental superhero. A 2022 clinical review in the Journal of Oral Health and Preventive Dentistry showed that patients with higher K2 levels had stronger jawbone density, healthier gum tissue, and significantly lower risk of tooth loss, even in their late 70s. Why? Because K2 activates osteocalcin, the protein that builds all bones, not just hips and spines, but also the structures that hold your teeth in place. So, if you've noticed increased gum sensitivity, wobbly teeth, more frequent dental cleanings, or slower healing after oral work, those could be early whispers from your skeleton telling you K2 is running low. The great news? It's never too late to reinforce your foundation. In Japan, it's common practice for elders to pair miso soup and natto with breakfast, not for flavor, but for structure. It's a tradition rooted in the understanding that healthy teeth, healthy aging, and it makes sense. Studies show seniors with poor oral health often struggle more with nutrient absorption, cognitive decline, and even balance, because jaw stability affects inner ear signals and posture. That's why modern dentistry is starting to view vitamin K2 as a critical piece of the puzzle, not just for preventing cavities, but for protecting the bone scaffolding that holds the face together. So the next time you brush your teeth, take a moment to think, what am I doing to protect the bone underneath? It's not just about toothpaste, it's about nourishment. Because when your smile stays strong, you eat better, speak clearer, feel more confident, and age with dignity. By now, you've seen the full picture. Strong bones after 60 aren't just about calcium. They're not just about D3. They're about giving your body the final key that makes the entire system work: vitamin K2. Without it, calcium wanders, joints stiffen, arteries harden, teeth loosen, and healing slows down. But with it, bones lock in minerals, arteries stay clear, teeth root deeper, and the body begins to remember its rhythm. It doesn't take a special diet. It doesn't require a dozen pills. It just takes consistency and a new perspective. That instead of chasing more calcium, you guide what you already have to the places that matter. That instead of scrubbing harder with more effort, you let your body absorb smarter, recover smoother, and age with intention. So here's your action plan, boiled down. Pair your D3 with K2, especially in the MK7 form. Take it with food that includes fat. Include K2-rich foods like eggs, cheese, liver, or fermented options. Pay attention to your teeth, joints, and sleep. They'll often tell you how well your bones are really doing. And most importantly, stay curious. Stay proactive and stay gentle with yourself, because your body doesn't need more noise. It needs better signals. Vitamin K2 may not have the flashy commercials or the biggest shelf space, but it's the quiet, powerful support your bones have been waiting for. Not to build strength with strain, but to restore balance with wisdom. And that, more than any pill or product, is what true health after 60 really looks like. Maybe it was never about doing more. Maybe the real power in aging strong is in doing less, but doing it right. One quiet vitamin, one small shift, one moment each day to listen in instead of tune out. Your bones are still listening. Your body is still learning. It hasn't stopped. It just needed the right instructions. So if today sparks something, let it guide your next meal, your next step, your next breath. And next time someone tells you, "That's just aging," you'll know better, because your strength isn't slipping. It's waking up.